This video is going to explore how we might develop historical questions that really maximize your results on the Ismg. Let's take a look at the Ismg to start off with. There's two criteria that are going to impact upon us. They are the devising and conducting criteria and the creating and communicating criteria. And so in this video, I want to look at both of those elements. Now, let's focus in on devising and conducting first, because it's talking about how we create, how we nuance some discerning historical questions. In the example I've given you, this is the set of questions with the inquiry question and the sub-questions that I've created for you. Now, as you look at these, I want you to think about what the Ismg might mean by saying nuanced. Nuance is talking about shades of meaning. It's a way of teasing out finely discriminated ideas, getting the shades of difference between different concepts. A little bit how in a spoken way we can tell where someone can say the same words in different ways and it has an entirely different meaning, perhaps through sarcasm or humour. Specific terms can give us shades of meaning. They tend, when we have nuance, we tend to have a high-level thought process in play. And we'll look at that shortly. Now, relevant sub-questions. My key inquiry question needs to be teased out further by questions that clearly relate to it. They're relevant. They're not only relevant as sub-questions to the key inquiry question, but they're going to be relevant to my research. They're going to be relevant to the set task, to the syllabus, and so on. Now, again, we're keen to tease out high-quality ideas, and if we do these various steps well, then we'll find that the analysis and the summary and the rationale writing will be that just that little bit easier, particularly part of the rationale, which is a hypothesis. So let's have a look at what I've done here. To get to some high-level questioning, I think words such as how, why, to what extent are going to help us. Now, there's all sorts of matrices created by people like the University of Queensland who help us to tease out meanings in our, or get that higher level of meaning. Matrices that exist, and I've got in your OneNote, that help you to discern high-level questions exist. Make sure you use them. Now, the next part that I want you to pick up in these inquiry questions is that I'm trying to use specific issues. I'm trying to connect to specific concepts in my key inquiry question, my sub-questions. I want significant ideas coming through, and I'm trying to echo those all through the key inquiry question and the sub-questions that support it. Trying to make thoughtful use of terms. We're going to emphasize the connection and the relevance of the sub-questions to the key inquiry question. Perhaps that's by using similar words, similar concepts, that you shouldn't be going off on tangents. All of these ideas relate. So when you're looking at the green highlighting, you hopefully can see a connection of ideas. Finally, when you're thinking about your key inquiry questions, your final hypothesis which appears as part of your rationale will be an answer to these key inquiry questions and these sub-questions. So think about the way in which you can incorporate a statement of time and place. Think about how you might pose a question that requires a really sophisticated, nuanced response, a significant issue that can be theorized about, tested through the use of evidence. All right, let's now push on and have a look at another aspect. When we're talking about nuancing, when we're talking about effective vocabulary, it's about word choices. So, not only do you need to use your own skills in writing, you need to look at modelled writing, so have a look at the example I've got here, but also throughout the entire ISI, choose the correct word yourself. Certainly take ideas from the tools like Synonym and Thesaurus in Word. Feel like you might right-click and get some thoughts there, but really think. It's not a mindless right-click put in any word. Choosing the right word to communicate just the right meaning requires really careful judgment by you, not just picking a big word. Don't be afraid to use specific terminology. Don't be afraid to use specific concepts that have come up in your background reading. The terminology exists in technical papers to give exactly that nuance you're looking for. If you're talking about specific groups, use the right term for them. Craft the language around the ideas you want to communicate. It's very, very much a process of drafting, thinking carefully. You can't just bang out something quickly. Clarity is a key part of the ISMG. So when you use terminology, it will add to the clarity, how clear your ideas are. Also, terminology allows you to trim down the number of words. Use a specific term for a specific concept. Target in, hone in on that idea. Say exactly what you need to say. Think about what it is before you say it. Get it out there. And proofread carefully. Often our eye doesn't pick up on our own typos, our own spelling errors. We often read what we think we've said rather than what we've meant to say. If you didn't pick up, there was a deliberate typo there in the word proofread. You might actually have just read over it as if it was PROOF, as it should have been, but it wasn't there at all. Did you spot it, or did your eye just assume that that would be okay? Now I'm going to demonstrate something for you shortly. We're going to change the slide and see something different. It's the read aloud function in Word. Try it as you draft. Have your own writing read back to you. Don't just look for the little blue and little red wriggly lines underneath your writing. Make sure you proofread carefully. Now, terminology, names, dates, often parts of your reference list are not going to be detected by normal spell check functions, not going to be detected by normal grammar check functions. So what you need to do is fully engage in that process. Let's have a look at that read aloud function now.
Corroborated. Source 1. Copy of source and full APA reference details. Source interrogation. This secondary source is an extract from Bottom's History of the Frontier Wars in Queensland.
This secondary source is an extract from Bottom's History of the Frontier Wars in Queensland. His book sets out to present readers with awful truth at the heart of Queensland pastoral settlement. Bottoms, 2013, PXXV.
So that was the read aloud function. Before we close this video, before I finish up on it, take a good look at the two criteria that are going to impact most upon this developing of historical questions. Look at the example you've got here, compare yours, make some changes.